The leader of the Nationalist Movement Party, MHP, has said his party is open to discussing forging a coalition with the Justice and Development Party, AK Party, reiterating however, that the MHP would not forge a coalition with the AK Party unless those allegedly involved in corruption are called to account. How could we sit in the seats of government while the thieves are at large? How can we occupy seats in power when those who received bribes, who opened offices under the guise of a foundation and unlawfully collected money live comfortably? MHP leader Devlet Bahçeli told etikhaber news portal late on Tuesday. Arguing that his party's attitude regarding a potential coalition is based on a number of principles, Bahçeli enumerated in the interview that his party's requirements for a coalition include the definite elimination of a settlement process launched by the government to resolve the country terrorism problem and Kurdish issue, calling to account all the corruption suspects before the law, and restricting President Recep Tayyip Erdoğan's use of power to within the constitutional limits. 4 ministers in the former AK Party government, Economy Minister Zafer Aliyan, Interior Minister Muammer Güler, EU Affairs Minister Ijman and Environment and Urban Planning Minister Erdoğan Bayraktar left their posts under claims of corruption a week after a graft probe went public on December 17, 2013. Despite the blatant evidence of corruption, Parliament voted in January, thanks to the overwhelming AK Party majority at the time, against referring the 4 former ministers to a top court for trial, which meant the end of the legal process against the ministers. According to a Hurriyet Daily report on Monday, Bahçeli also said in remarks to his party members that no AK Party MHP coalition is possible unless President Erdoğan's son Bilal is called to account for charges of corruption. Based on audio clips released over YouTube following the graft probes, it appeared that the Foundation of Youth and Education in Turkey, Turcev, of which Bilal Erdoğan is a board member, and Bilal were widely involved in corruption. The MHP, which labels the settlement process as treason, maintains the process will lead to the disintegration of the country, even as the AK Party recently expressed its determination to continue with the process. President Erdoğan's negative discourse about the settlement process and the de facto suspension of the process ahead of last Sunday's election was a major source of the loss of Kurdish votes for the AK Party, leading to its fall from power. It is not possible for us to cooperate with those who act as a patron of the treasonous process, added Bahçeli, virtually quashing any chance of a coalition with the AK Party. In the interview, Bahçeli also called on acting Prime Minister Ahmet Davutoglu to demonstrate the will to cast aside Erdoğan's tutelage over the government. Representatives from the business world and labor unions also met with party leaders as time draws near for official negotiations for a coalition to begin. The head of Turkey's most influential businessmen association said on Wednesday that all parties have been working for the formation of a lasting government, expressing its hopes that the country will not waste time by holding an early election. TSAD prefers a speedy formation of a lasting government that will pave the way for Turkey's progress, Cansan Bayzaran Sims, chairwoman of the Turkish Industrialists and Businessmen's Association, TSAD, told reporters after meeting with the leaders of all 4 political parties in a 2-day visit to Ankara. Noting that the TSAD delegation saw a strong will in the parties to forge a coalition government instead of opting for an early election, Sims said they hoped Turkey would set a good example to the world by forming a stable coalition government. Representatives of Turkey's biggest businesspeople association and leading labor unions on the same day called for a coalition government to be formed as soon as possible to tackle the country's problems. An early elections is a last option, Rafat Hisarklıoğlu, head of the Union of Chambers and Commodity Exchanges of Turkey, TOBB, told reporters after meeting with main opposition Republican People's Party, CHP, leader Kemal Kılıçdaroğlu and MHP leader Bahçeli. A new government should begin work at the earliest to be able to take the necessary measures, added Hisarklıoğlu, who was also accompanied by representatives of the Civil Servants Trade Union, Memersen, the Confederation of Turkish Real Trade Unions, HAK, and the Confederation of Turkish Labor Unions, Turk. In his interview with the news portal, the MHP leader ruled out once again any possibility of joining forces in a coalition government with the pro-Kurdish People's Democratic Party, HDP, dealing a lethal blow to hopes for a coalition option that would exclude the AK party. We have nothing to do with any coalition formula in which the HDP will be a part of or support from outside, and it is not on our agenda, Bahçeli said. The MHP argues the HDP is closely associated with the outlawed Kurdistan Workers' Party, PKK, which is recognized as a terrorist organization by Turkey, the US and the EU. The MHP is also completely against the settlement process that the AK party government launched at the end of 2012 with imprisoned PKK leader Abdullah Öcalan. Smashing the main opposition CHP's hopes of bringing together the MHP, the HDP, and itself in a coalition, Bahçeli said, it is impossible to convince us about the HDP. Demands voiced by the HDP as part of the now stalled settlement process include among others autonomy for the predominantly Kurdish-populated southeast, the recognition of Kurdish as an official language and schooling in Kurdish in public schools where Kurds are the majority. Bahçeli's remark about the HDP definitely dashes the main opposition CHP's hopes of bringing together the MHP, the HDP, and the CHP in a coalition. Kılıçdaroğlu maintained at the beginning of the week that the election results have put the responsibility of forging a coalition primarily on opposition parties that collectively received almost 60% of the vote, rather than on the ruling AK party. The duty of forming the government falls primarily on the 60% bloc, CHP leader told reporters, noting that the balance of votes is in favor of the opposition. Bahçeli however once again made it clear in the interview to the news portal the party's opposition towards the HDP, saying, there is a talk of a 60% bloc. For us, this is just nonsense. A coalition scenario that does not include the AK party needs the support of all three opposition parties represented in parliament to form a government, as only then would the total number of deputies surpass 276, the number of seats needed for an absolute majority in the 550-seat parliament.